whoa.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
What? Oh my God. Ian,
Hey.
how are you? How was vacay? Tell me everything.
Vacation was good. This is the first time I've been on just like a vacation. And I still managed to work still, but but it was
Of
mostly
course.
vacation. Yeah, but it was mostly vacation. It was good. I had a fun time. I needed that week because I've been on the road crazy since like January.
And
So
I saw you on the boat. It was giving brows.
yeah,
It was giving shirt open.
yeah.
GQ. Hello, somebody.
Yeah, I was
Um,
living my best life out there. Yeah, for
I
sure.
feel that. That's what's up. Okay, so I just want to say before we start that I am just so proud of you and so happy for your success and to see where your career is going. Your HBO special romantic comedy is so good.
Thank you.
And I'm just so excited to see you flourish.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's very sweet of you to say. Thank you.
Okay, so let's just get right on into it. So to start, we're gonna play a little game. And it's called Name That Comic. Okay. So I'm gonna say a line from a comedian that you should probably know. And then you're gonna tell me who the comedian is.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. You excited?
I'm scared.
Okay. Don't be scared. It's gonna be okay. Okay, here's the first one. Dooba dabba, gooba gabba juice.
I want to say,
He was talking about his daughter when she was a little baby.
Bernie Mac.
Kevin Hart. That's okay. That's a
The juice bit. I know that bit. Yeah, his daughter came into the kitchen to ask for juice. Yeah. I know
that's
that
right.
bit.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Bernie,
That's
Bernie
okay.
got the one he talks about his niece in the same way when they're asking for cookies. But yeah, he does. I do know that bit. Yeah. That's from the first special. That's old.
That's my shit.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Before I continue, you know
What?
that's one of the specials. That's crazy you brought that up because that's one of the specials that I watched and I was like, damn, I want to do stand up.
Oh, that was the one that inspired you to.
Kind of. I mean, I was already, but that was when I was like, fuck, I want to do this.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that for Kevin Hart too. Because usually you hear people say like Pryor or Eddie Murphy or people of that generation. So to know that like he's the generation that you felt connected
I
to is
actually
really
have brought
nice.
that up like in other interviews where people you do say like Pryor and of course I love those people, but for me, like Kevin was one of the people that was like, I want that. I want to like be funny like that.
You are well on your way, my friends. Okay. Next one. You should know this one because he is from your hometown. That's not me. I live on the 5th floor.
I do know this one.
I believe in you.
My mind is gone. That's not me. Who is that? I can't.
His name is Rashid. He wasn't
Rashid,
really. Yeah, he
died.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the bodega bit. Yeah. Yeah,
The
bodega. He's like, what happened? He's like, what happened? I don't know. I
don't know. That's not me.
Yeah, I know the bits, but in just my mind, I don't know the name. Yeah.
Should have given you the name. You should have done the bits.
That bit, Rashid, that was on Bad Boys of Comedy, right? That was like he did like 7 minutes on Bad Boys of Comedy. That's like the only stand-up he really has out. But it's such a classic, like 7 minutes that it's gone viral. Like he passed away like I think over 10 years ago, but it's gone viral so many times.
And it's a New York staple. Like if you're from New York, you feel so connected to it.
Yeah. He's like, Poppy, what happened on the 4th floor? I live on the 5th floor.
Right. Poppy, give me your $5. I don't know. I don't have it.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. Yo, y'all got the same father? And I was like, wait, you trying to call my mama a hoe? As a matter of fact, we do. And his name is Colin. Yeah, colonization, bitch.
Is that Ida?
Ooh, yes, I was about to say, you're going to get in trouble.
I know Ida. That's Ida. Yeah. you did it in her voice too. I was like, that's Ida. Yeah.
I was like, don't be getting in trouble out here.
That one is recent. Everyone you asked me was like 15 years ago or more. That one is a recent one.
Okay. Obviously, you've done a lot. So talk to me about your journey. Like, how did you go from, I'm going to be pre-law in college to, actually, I'm going to do stand-up?
Yeah, well, I mean, I first got the idea of it like in high school. I remember when I went to high school in Queens, and it was a Catholic school, and all of my friends,
Shout out
everybody,
to the Archdiocese of New York. Me too.
yeah,
Go
yeah, for
ahead.
sure. Yeah, me and all of my friends, we would just always just joking around, and we was funny, but it was Catholic school, so it was like we were like funny, but like we also got good grades because like you could not get good grades because you would get kicked out and your parents were paying so much money. So
Right.
we were like class clowns who like were like A students. So it was like weird because the teachers would kind of be like mad at us, but then our grades were like good. And I remember like junior year, like a couple of my friends being like, hey, you're like them like being like, yeah, you're really funny. Like you should become a comedian or whatever. But at that point, I was just like a fan of stand up. I went off to college. I wanted to be a lawyer. I was studying to be pre-law. I was like, yeah, I'll just go to college and become a lawyer or whatever. I never thought about becoming a stand up. And then I remember my high school girlfriend, she took me to see Chris Rock film Kill the Messenger freshman
Mm-hmm.
year of college. And I went to see the taping of it. He taped his HBO special. Crazy to think that I have one now, but I went to see him film that, and then I was like, wow, this is like the coolest thing ever. And then I went back when I went back to college, like I had like the seed, like maybe I could figure out, maybe I could be a stand-up comedian. I was like, maybe. And then I remember, I think it was sophomore year at a Westbury. They had like a
Whoa, whoa,
comedy.
whoa, 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 whoa. You went to a Westbury?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I went to a Westbury.
Yeah, I knew that.
What?
You didn't know that?
You went to a Westbury?
Yeah, we were there at the same time.
No, we weren't.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I went 2008 to 2012.
Oh, you were younger.
Yeah, yeah,
Duh, obviously.
yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, anyways.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
Westbury had a comedy show, and then wow.
yeah. So they had a comedy show where like the students like participated in it, and I didn't sign up for it, but I just went to watch. And like all like the students, they were like funny, like it was like good, like it wasn't bad at all. Like everyone did well. And then like once I saw that, I was like, oh, I was like, I could do like I think I could do this. I could do this. And then when we came back home for that summer, I signed up for like open mics here in like New York City, and I started going to like a couple open mics, and it was good. I was like, oh, I think I have something here. And then I went back for senior year, and I did the competition that year, and I didn't win. This other kid won, but it went well. It went great. And then I remember when I did the competition, everybody at school was like, dude, just be a stand-up. Like, forget about this law stuff. Just be a stand-up. But I was still like, nah. And then I graduated. I was pre-law. Then I took the LSATs. I started applying to law school. But I was
Right.
doing comedy at night. I had a day job and I was doing comedy at night. And then in the process of like taking the LSATs and applying, like comedy just kind of started taking like the lead. And I kind of just like by the time I was like 23, 24, I was like, I think I'm just gonna give this my all and focus on this.
So if you could think about like your first open mic where you said, I'll give this a try. Let me see what happens here. What
Yeah.
was that like? Did you sit down and write a few jokes, memorize them? Like, what is that process like, specifically for that experience?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's literally what I did. I wrote down jokes. I remember I had like this old, it was like 2010 or whatever. I had this like digital camera, and I recorded myself like doing the stand up, and then I would watch it. I showed my cousin it. He was like, yo, this is pretty funny. You should try it. And I was like, all right, come with me. So he came with me, and he came to my first open mic. And I think he came to like my first three because like just like I didn't want to go by myself. And
Right.
he's like he has like a great sense of humor and stuff. So I was like, it'll be good. So he came, and then he watched, and then he saw me do it. And I remember he was like, dude, like you could do this. Like if you work hard, you could do this. Like I think you got it. And yeah, he was there. He was there the first time I did stand up. He was there the first time I did the Tonight Show, and he was there when I filmed the HBO special. He got to see like the whole thing.
That's so beautiful. So
Yeah,
as you're going on your journey, at some point you hit a fork in the road where you're like, I'm doing comedy. I'm not going to pursue this law thing. So
yeah.
obviously you have to have a conversation with your parents. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I never really sat down and had the conversation like, "Hey, I'm not gonna do it." I remember like, cause my parents they knew that I was working to take the LSATs, and then I took it, and then I had applied, and they kind of I graduated college pretty fast. Like I was in and out 4 years, so like I was kind of early, so I had like bought like a grace period with them because most people don't graduate 20. I was 21
Right.
when most people don't graduate so fast. So I remember around the time I was like 25, that's when they started to ask like, hey, so what are you doing with this law stuff? And I kind of just put it like, I was like, yeah, like I'm working on it. I kind of kept pushing it away. So they saw that I wasn't going to go. And then they were just like, let's see where this takes you. And luckily enough, from the time I was like, I'm not going to go, so they was like, let's see where it take you. I started getting things already. And then I had a
Right.
couple family members come see me do shows, and they kind of was like, hey, like he's good. Like he can do this. Like he's going to be good. So that kind of brought me a little more thing. But they were always like, they were always like, it's my mom. And they were just like, if you're going to do it, figure it out. Like whatever.
But that generally supportive.
Generally supportive, Dominican supportive.
Right.
It's not they were
I
like, we're
understand.
gonna support you while you follow this crazy dream. They were like,
Right.
look, you gotta support yourself, but if you want to follow this, go ahead.
Right. I
Yeah,
saw that your dad had attended one of your most recent shows.
yeah,
And I want to ask you about that because, for example, like with my mom, I'm like embarrassed to say bad words in front of her. What's
yeah.
it like? What's that experience like with you and your dad and having him in the
Yeah.
audience? Does that like raise the level of nerves? What does that make you feel like?
Well, at first, yes. At first, it was that, and my dad's like a Christian. Like he like
Oh,
no drinking, no music, no cursing. Like he's like a staunch Christian. So at first, I had that feeling of like, I don't really want you to see what I do. I don't really. But I think my dad's also he's a teacher. He just retired. He was a teacher for 32 years. So he's like he's not dumb, and he's kind of like I think he's kind of has seen like the things that I've gotten, and then he's like, all right, like I'm not, like this is obviously working, this is obviously taking them somewhere, and like he's seen like the success of like from like nothing to like where I'm at now. So I think he kind of just be like, all right, just do your thing.
I love, and he probably enjoys it too. Like,
Yeah,
the
maybe, yeah. Because my
Christianity
dad is,
aside.
even though he's Christian and stuff, he is funny. Like he's a funny guy. And I was doing a show in Bridgeport, which is where he taught for 31 years, and he just retired. And it was very random. Like one of his coworkers had seen like a billboard that they had of me, like that was coming to the city, and they planned like a retirement party to come see my show for him. He didn't know, I didn't know. He told me he was gonna come to the show. I got him tickets. When we showed up, it was like 70 of his coworkers there. And
That's
to see,
beautiful.
and yeah, and they like, I mean, they loved it too. It was like a good time. It was like a great moment.
That's beautiful. Now you lost your mom, unfortunately,
Yeah,
while you were like on the brink of this success.
yeah.
How did that impact your work, your comedy, your material?
Well, my mom, she got to see some of the success. My mom came with me when I did my first Tonight Show. So when she saw me on Jimmy Fallon, she
Great.
was backstage. She came with me. I had done some things for Telemundo, and she came with me and she saw that. So she did get to see like the success building, but her getting sick, she got sick with cancer and passing away. That came out of nowhere. That came out of left field. My mom went from like life of the partying and hanging out with family to on her deathbed in like 3.5 months. Like literally, that
Oh
was
my
how that
God.
came. So it was definitely. I mean, it changed everything. It changed like the way I see things. It changed the way I look at comedy, the way I look at life. It completely like turned my life upside down. But it was a learning moment, and as you do in life, you take everything and you try to grow with it and help you reach the next level. For me, like me personally, I would not have, if I didn't go through that at that time, I would not
Mhm.
have a special that is romantic comedy. The whole idea for it, the whole material for it, the whole thing was all, I came up through all that stuff while I was grieving the death of my mom. So if you have to look, everybody has to go one day. If you have to look at like a positive of those,
Mhm.
me, it would be that I got this special romantic comedy, which I dedicated to her, at the end.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Now, if
Yeah.
you think back to the moment that you found out you were getting a special, where were you? What was it like? Who called you? Paint the picture for me.
Yeah. To be honest, I would like it would be nice to have it be like a random thing of like like the phone rings and you're just like, what? I can't believe it. But to be honest, that's not really like how the entertainment industry work. You kind of get rejected forever. You just continuously get rejected. It's constantly no, 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 no. You get beat down to like you're just like completely like immune to like no's. And then things starts to pick up. And when things start to pick up, you're just like, okay, like I know these people are interested. I know those people aren't, so like once the train gets going, it's kind of becomes a thing where you're just like, all right, like yeah, I know they're interested. I know the so when I got the call, I was excited. I was like, oh wow, like this is such a big deal. But it was it was during COVID. So
Mm,
they were like, we're gonna film this whenever we open. And at the time, we had no like, you couldn't see the top of the mountain. We did not no idea when it was us. So I was like, all right, I guess we'll do this when we're open. So, but I was excited. And two, I had already had conversations with HBO, and I knew they were interested, and I knew that they
right.
like did. So I kind of knew that it was a possibility.
Right, for a long time before it actually happened. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because you also mentioned all the rejection, and I'm sure, like most comics, maybe you might have bombed once or twice on stage, I'm
Sure, yeah.
assuming. Talk to me about that. Like, how do you bounce back?
I mean, I think it took a sense of it took a little bit of naiveness and like sometimes what you don't know helps you sometimes. Sometimes not knowing the things helps you. Like there were times where I did shows that were weighed a lot more than I knew at the moment. Like at the moment, I just kind of thought it was just like a regular show. But in hindsight, I'm like, oh shit, like that was weighed heavier than that held more weight than I thought. But it helped me at the time not putting that weight on myself. But the
Mm-hmm.
rejection is kind of just like it's just a literal constant no, 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 no. And at first, for the first years, it's like it hurts a lot. But then after a while, you just kind of start expecting no. And when you start expecting no, it's just like, all right,
But
just another.
why keep going, right? Like that's the part where somebody would be like, you know what? I'm obviously this is not for
Yeah,
me. So
yeah.
what was it that kept you coming back?
Yeah, in comedy, it's like it's like small things. Like it'll be small things that'll keep you going for like another 2 years. Like I remember like the first time I met like a famous comedian, like the first time I met like Tracy Morgan, and he was like, you're funny, you're funny, and you're like, I'm funny, all right, that'll keep me going for like 2 years. And other comedians who are now like big names that who you respect who tell you like that's why I always, and I'm like, I don't think I'm like in any level, but like for the comedians who are like younger than me, when I see them and I think they're funny, I make sure to tell them like, dude, that's funny. You're funny. Like keep going. Cause I know how important it is. Just literally
That
a comedian that you respect stopping and being like, yo, you're funny can keep you going for another 18 months.
that
Until,
positive affirmation just like
right,
lights that little fire that you always had inside to
right.
keep going. Oh,
Right. And not only the comedians, but I was getting it from the people. Like at the end of the
right.
day, the industry would say no to me, but the people, the audience, and the people who were coming out to shows, they like literally just random people from the middle of the country, from every just be like, "Oh my God, you're funny. You're gonna be good. Like you're gonna be good." And I'm like, "All right, you think so, stranger that I just met in North Dakota?" Yeah, and I'm like, "All right," and
You
that's
are so funny. And then what, like, the thing about you that really kind of blows me away, which is a difficult feat for most people, is your audience work. Like
yeah.
that, I can't even begin to wrap my mind around how like you can just randomly pick someone from the audience and pick on them. How do you do it? Like does it just come off the dome? Is it like a freestyle for a rapper?
I feel like I'm giving away like comedian secrets, but to be honest, that stuff like the in the moment crowd stuff, to be honest, that's a little bit easier than like writing jokes. And like the hard part about stand-up comedy is that we have to go up there and create context. Like things are funny contextually, and we have to create the context with words, right? I have to
Right.
paint the story and I have to bring you into it, but you're not part of it. So it's tough because you're just listening, but you're not part of it. Now, if I go into the
Oh,
audience and I ask you a question, now you're in it. Now I've created context, and now the people in the audience are in it, so they're more invested. So to
it's
be
like
honest,
improv.
yeah, to be honest, it's easier to kill doing that than it is with like my own jokes that I've written. So in my shows, like I don't do a ton of it. I do a little bit of it because you do it for the clips and for content. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and also you do it long enough, and you learn the tricks, and you learn how to
How to navigate.
where you take people and where to go. So you kind of learn the things. There are some people who like have mastered of it, but generally I would say that like if you come to see my show, it's like 50-55 minutes of like my jokes that I've written, and then I'll do a little bit of the crowd interaction thing for the content. But I always say that it's harder. Like audiences, when they come out, they want to be involved to a certain extent. So it's like
Yeah.
it's harder to just do like a show where they're not involved and have them
Right.
leave feeling like they are involved. That's the thing.
Oh, that's the goal.
Because you're having a conversation, but I don't want an answer from you. I only want laughter from you, generally speaking. Like, but I want you
Gotcha.
to back and forth. But the back and forth is just you laughing and me talking, and that's difficult to create for an hour.
It seems like a lot of stand-up is storytelling and the way that you shape the journey of the story as it goes along. Was there ever a time where you're like in the middle of a stand-up sesh and you forget a piece of it?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Like honestly, I was just talking about this the other day. Like, I don't know, I feel like I've gotten dumber. Like I used to be sharp. Like I used to be like my mind used to be like on point. And now, like, even like when you were asking me the comedians, like I clearly knew who they were. I knew their bits, I knew their backstory, I knew what the bit was, but I couldn't think of the name like right off the bat. So I do get like a little bit of foggy, but you do it long enough. I've been doing it almost 13 years. So you do it long enough
Wow.
that you learn how to navigate. So it's like for me, I might have a bad show, like I'll know it's a bad show myself, but the audience generally won't know. They'll just think it was like a fine show. But I know that like, oh, I was on. So you kind of know like how to like finesse your way out of it from doing it. Anything like
Right.
I always anything you do like a ton, you're gonna get better at it.
Right. That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's something that you tackle in your content that is the blackness of Latinidad. And that's a really tricky one, specifically for like Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, because we're like in this middle of the road space, right? Where you're like not one thing or not the other thing. And so how you identify can be a really tricky thing to communicate and
Right.
navigate when you're on a main stage like that. Was there any apprehension on your behalf for doing that? Or were you just like, this is who I am? And
Well, the first type of like I guess notoriety that I got was from a Comedy Central set that I did, where I talk about the Afro Latino stuff. And that video was like the first time where like when that video came out, and when it got like over like 10 million views like on Facebook. And this was like in 2018 when like it was like 2017, I think. It was like no, like the algorithm wasn't really a thing. Like to go viral, it had to be like shared, like people sharing and
right,
sharing. So, but when I wrote that joke, the Afro Latino joke, I didn't know that like so many people would relate to it and find it funny. I just wrote that joke about being Afro Latino because I kept going to these. When I started touring, I was going to these places in the country that didn't even know where Dominican Republic was. Like they never even. They're like, "Where's DR again?" They had no idea. And to them, they just saw me as black. And then I also spoke Spanish. My mom and dad are both Dominican. So I
right,
kind of did the thing about Afro Latino, kind of just to mock, like making fun. Like I was kind of explaining it to them in layman's term, but also mocking the thing. But I didn't
right.
know that so many people would like also relate to it. And that was the first time when I realized that like I mean, for the first years of my stand-up, I always kind of just thought that I was just talking about my experience and it was just my experience and that's what it was. But after that video went viral, I was like, oh shit, there's people that like experience these things too. And there is like a generation of people that like really relate to like a lot of the things that I'm talking about. And I think those are the people who are like more fans of mine, or like the people that are like, yeah, this is exactly my experience.
But you know what's crazy? Like, no matter who you are, what your background is, like, I think about a comedian like Joe Coy, right? Who talks about his mom. And it's like the more specific you are with your experience, the more people relate, even if you're different in a way. So it's just interesting. It's like you all are able to find the magic in your truth and
Yeah,
deliver it in such a way where everybody can relate to
right,
something that you're
right.
saying. So brava, well done.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Because when I tell you that I popped several chuckles
Yeah.
while watching romantic comedy and learning about your dating endeavors, are you still currently collecting these types of content? for
Yeah, I
your
mean,
dating experiences? Do the women who you reference, were they aware before you went up there to talk about it, or was it just like, this is my truth and I'm telling it?
the funny thing was like when I was writing romantic comedy, first of all, I was dealing with the death of my mom. So I was like in a really, really sad place.
Right.
And and I kind of started to understand how, and sometimes you hear like an artist might have created like an album or a classic album or a classic whatever when they were dealing with like a bad breakup or a death or like some tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
It really helped me understand how you create art from tragedy. And I think a lot of it becomes you're in such a dark place that creating something that you think is good or that people think is good, it's literally the only form of stuff that brings you joy or happiness when you're such a dark place. Like when you're in
Right.
such a place like suddenly losing your mom, there's nothing that can bring you out of that. But you write a joke that you're like, oh shit, this is funny. Like for like at least a couple minutes, you're like, oh, this not bad.
Right.
This is funny. And my mom was like a funny person too. So even like through her sickness and through like we never lost a sense of humor. Like even like at my mom's,
Oh,
there was laughter still. There was still jokes. There was still funny. There was still laughter. But when I was writing romantic comedy, all these stories were like I went back to like my early 20s and I started like trying to find real stuff that happened to me and real stories. And speaking of friends, and some of it was stories that they told me and stories that my friends been through. And I was like, I remember I had done some podcasts and I would tell these stories and people were like, you gotta start telling this on stage or whatever. And then I just started writing and I started like getting to like, all right, let me get, and then you would write and then I would go perform it and it would start working. I was like, all right, how do I go deeper? How do I go deeper? So that like when I wrote all of that stuff, it was like a culmination of like my dating for like all through my 20s. And
gotcha.
I thought that I would write romantic comedy. And my plan was I would do romantic comedy. It was about being single, being dating. And then I thought that like for the next special, that I was like, for the next special, I'll probably be in like a serious relationship, right? Because that's just how it works, right? Like I was like, I'll definitely be like in a serious relationship. And then
Right.
now I'm like almost halfway through writing the new hour, and I'm like, oh, still not there. So I
Okay,
guess
but so
I
can
guess
you
we're doing
tell?
dating.
Oh, okay, all right. I just wanted to know, like, what's the new special about? What are we?
I don't. I mean, I
What's the
like to be honest.
overarching theme?
I didn't realize to be 100% honest. I didn't realize what romantic comedy was almost till like I taped it. Like it's not like
Got
I
it.
came into it like we actually had a different title for it and everything. But what like when we watched it after we taped it and edited it, when we watched it, the like the notes from HBO and from my director Ida was just like
Mm-hmm.
they liked the other title, but they were like, this is like their this is their words, not my words. They were like, this is this special. They were like, this is a very sexy special. Like there's like a lot of smoke and you're wearing leather and you're talking about
Right.
your ass. They were like, this is like a lot of things. And they were like, we think you should go with a different title. And I remember like I was like, all right, let me think of some things. And I wanted to do like a play on words. And I started Googling like, all right, romantic comedies. Like I was like, I wanted
Right.
a movie that came out and switch the words around. And then I had this, I had that, and it didn't work. And I'm like, what about just romantic comedy? And they were like, this is great. They were like, but there's no way nobody has named this. Like this just seemed like so easy, like it must have been done.
Right.
And their lawyers like searched everything, like they looked through all the things. Like, is there any album called it, any special? And it was nothing. They couldn't find nothing. They were like, romantic comedy works. And I was like, okay, perfect. Let's go with romantic comedy. And then we gave it that whole arch and thing. It was like, all right, we the dating stuff, and then it
Right.
fit. So the new one, I really don't know. I feel like in I don't want to give too much away, but like I feel like in this one, I kind of felt like I made fun of men a lot. Like I kind of went in on
Oh.
some guy, not a lot, like a small portion of these like men were like, where you going in on, man, whatever. But I think for the next one, like as I'm writing the thing for the next one, I feel like I'm making fun of the ladies a little more on this
Ah,
on like the 30 minutes is making fun of it. But it's all the people who get it, they understand it's just all sarcasm and generalization
okay. Okay.
like that. But I'm making fun. And then I always I find I always got to put in like those stories, those like the story about like the eye gouging, like that was like a big story in the special.
That was wild.
I was on the road and this girl invited me back to her place and we started like hooking up, whatever, just kissing. And like she started
the
like
thumbs in the eyes?
She started like pushing her thumbs into my eyes, like really.
She was trying to murder
eye
you.
gouging. I don't know what she was trying to do, but she did it. And I had just gotten LASIK. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, you have those stories in the special. It really carries the through line because people like the joke. But when you give them a good story that they could dive into, that like that's the shit they remember.
That and the cruise ship with your friend. Did that really happen?
Yeah,
Was that a thing? Shut up.
Yeah. Both of those are real things.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm super excited.
I got the thing was like 8 years, like 7-8 years ago.
But who could forget that? I mean,
I had that story and I told it on a podcast. Literally, I told the story on a podcast, and it was like she was like a popular podcast, and I got so many messages from women being like, "You have to tell this story. This is the funniest. We never heard nothing like this. We never." And it was actually 2 stories I told. It was that one and another one. And now in my new special, I have the other story that I'm working on that's like doing well. So I kind of just like to do that. Like, I feel like that's my sweet spot. Like, I kind of do some dating stuff, tell a couple things about being Dominican, a couple stories, and that's it. Let's wrap it up.
I love that. That's your truth. And it comes through in a really refreshing and funny way and a really relatable way. I don't know if I'm partial because I'm Dominican and I'm from New York, but you are so funny. You're so funny.
I really appreciate it.
It's so good. And so, okay, tell me about Finnick. I heard something about an animated film. Give it to me.
Yeah, where did you hear that? I didn't hear. Yeah,
Finnick. I do my research.
Finnick actually comes out in a couple weeks. It's gonna be out on Hulu. Finnick is it was an animated film that was made in it was made in Europe, and it did well over there, and they wanted to bring it into the American market. And the producers, they found me, they liked my voice. They were like, I didn't even audition for it. They literally liked my voice. They were like, we got this film, we think you'll be great if you played Finnick, which is the lead of the film, which is the lead animal. So they flew me out for like 2 weeks, and we went to the studio. It was cool. I was in the Netflix studio doing voiceovers, and we redid the voice for Finnick and turned it into flipped it into English, and that'll be out. And I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the film, but that'll be out in like 2 weeks. That's gonna be on Hulu.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm excited to see that. I hope I don't sound stupid.
You're gonna sound like Finnick. You're gonna sound great. Yeah, okay, so tell me what the pinnacle for you is. Like, what is the thing that you want to accomplish that for you will be like, all right, mama, I made it?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I think I'm doing it. I think I'm doing all the things. Like I've everything that I've had on my list, like I've just checked it off. Like,
tell them.
I don't want to put like a thing like, oh, this is it for me. To be honest, at this current point in my career, everything seems like attainable and possible. So I just want to keep like growing and kind of just being myself, and hopefully people keep like messing with me.
Variety just named you one of the 10 comics to watch out for. You have a special on HBO. It's called Romantic Comedy. You've got that half-hour special on Comedy Central. Your 2 sets on The Tonight Show. Like, Finnick is coming out soon. I'm just elated for you, especially because you're an Old Westbury alumni and you went to Catholic school, and I just feel just like you're family almost in a weird way. Like, that's weird.
No, it's actually not. It's actually not, because I feel like it's so many, like when I meet Dominicans that come to my show, especially if they're from New York, that's really how they treat it, and I appreciate it.
Forget it. That's one of ours.
Yeah, I felt like that too. I felt like that too about other people. Like I remember when Cardi came out, and when Cardi got hot, I was just like, yeah, this is like Cardi's like family. Like I know Cardi. Everybody knows.
That's my girl.
Yeah, right. Everybody knows her. So and I think it is. I appreciate it, and I think it's like super important to support the people because that are like you, because before the other people support you, you got to be supported by your own people, and that's when the other people jump on the wagon. So I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Now, before we close out, I want you to tell me the best advice you've ever received to get you through the long journey, the long volatile journey that is stand-up comedy.
I would say, I don't know if I could like narrow it down to one specific thing, but the best advice and kind of thing I probably would say I got it from my dad, and it was, I don't know, maybe he said it verbally, but it was more through example. My dad has a very practical way of viewing and doing things, where it's just like, if you want to do something, or if you want to do something, just figure out how you do it and just do that. Like that sounds it sounds like I'm oversimplifying something that's more difficult, but it's really what I did. Like I literally went on Google and I Googled how to become a comedian, and I kept Googling that for years to see if something had changed. And the advice that I would read, I would just do that. And I did that for years without thinking like, oh, it's gonna come, it's gonna, like, I just did that. And I just trusted that I was reading the right information and listening to the right podcast. I listened to a bunch of podcasts of comedians I respected and listened to what they did. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I just took that practical approach. So I think, to whether it's stand up or whatever you want to do, I always think take the practical approach to it. Like even if it's some foreign thing that you can't even fathom, like now there's nothing you can't find on the internet how to do. Like if you want to be a TikToker, like Google how to be a TikToker, listen to how your favorite TikToker got started and what they did, and just do that.
Thank you. Thanks, Dad. And also thanks, Ian. That's very sound advice. It's like, know what you want to do, keep at it, and figure it out.
Yeah, patience is like the most important thing. I always preach patience. Sometimes I have to do it to myself too, because there was times, and then even now there's times where you get frustrated because you're doing the things and you're doing everything, but then you just have to be patient. Like you literally have to like just practice, like be patient.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for taking the time out to chat with me. You are a gem and you are so funny. And I can't wait to see the next special. And I can't wait to see Finnick. And if there's anything else that's coming down the pipeline, please let us know right now.
All right. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Finnick, I think that's coming out August 21st. I don't got the date. Then I'm on another show on Hulu that comes out the next week. It's called The Conversation. I forgot what it's called. The Conversation Playlist something. But that's a cool show because the whole premise of that, it's like a mini series, and it's like it's a talk about Black and Afro-Latino relations. It's just like a dinner party at this random. It's like the premise is cool. It's a random dinner party where they invite like a bunch of people to a dinner party, and we just talk about like race relations and stuff, but in a funny way, and over like a full course meal. And there's like a bunch of celebrities there. And I'm glad that I got invited, and that'll be out in the end of August, and I'll be promoting that on my special, on my thing. And also I have my sitcom. Hopefully I'm doing it with Chelsea Handler. Hopefully we can get that done, but there's a strike right now. But
after the strike, patience.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully we can get that going, and I'll post about all that stuff and tell other people. Just my website's Ian Lara Live. I start in September. I'm going back on tour, and I'm gonna tour the whole next year, and hopefully film at the end of next year, film something. So if you want to follow me,
if you need an extra, call me.